right, let's dive into this one. We're tackling The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb, all based on the excerpts you sent in.
Oh, this is a good one.
It's going to, well, I think it's safe to say it's going to change how we view the world.
Yeah, maybe even like big life decisions like your career.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, right off the bat, Taleb throws out this concept, the black swan.
Not the bird.
No, not the bird. It's a metaphor. He defines it as an event, something that's super rare,
Okay.
carries a massive impact, and we only see it coming after it's happened.
So not just something we could have predicted, but like
No.
it was practically impossible.
Yeah, like think about it this way.
Okay.
He uses this this example from his own life, the Lebanese Civil War. Lebanon, like stable paradise, right?
Right.
Suddenly, boom, chaos.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah, and as our world gets more complex, these black swans, they're becoming more common.
Like more influential?
More influential, yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, scarier, basically.
So why are we so bad at seeing these things coming?
Well, you know, our brains, like, order, explanations, narratives. We want a story.
We want a story. But reality, it's messy, unpredictable.
So are you saying we're, like, hardwired
Yeah, maybe we have like the wrong user manual
for our brains?
for our brains. Like we evolved for a simpler time, when we had to worry about lions in the bushes.
Not the stock market crashing.
Exactly.
So we're wired to see patterns even when they're not really there.
Mm-hmm. And assume that the future will be just like the past, just a continuation.
Like, oh, that person's successful. They must be talented and hardworking.
Without considering the role of luck.
Right.
And that brings us to this other idea that Taleb talks about, the limitations of knowledge.
Okay.
Like, he's super skeptical about, traditional ways of knowing things, making predictions.
Especially in a world of black swans.
Especially, yeah. Remember that? No.
The turkey problem.
The turkey problem. Fed every day, thinking everything's great.
Yeah, life is good.
Life is good.
Then bam, Thanksgiving.
And it's not just a bad day, it's like
the end.
the end.
And think about it. Just because something's happened over and over
Doesn't mean it'll keep happening.
doesn't mean it'll keep happening. How much of what we believe is based on that kind of thinking? Like, are we the turkeys?
Whoa, that's a scary thought.
Right. Like, how much control do we really have? Taleb uses this kind of a chilling example. Captain Smith of the Titanic said he never saw a shipwreck in all his years at sea. The Titanic, supposed to be unsinkable.
Right, the irony.
So experience isn't always the best guide.
And he says that experts are often terrible at predicting the future.
Oh, especially in areas like finance, economics, the fields that are supposed to be all about predicting things.
Yeah, forecasting.
But when it comes to the big events,
The black swans.
they don't do so well.
So if we can't rely on past patterns, we can't trust the experts.
Then what do we do?
How do we navigate this unpredictable world? Feels like we're set up to fail.
That's where it gets interesting. Taleb says we need to become skeptical empiricists.
Skeptical empiricists.
People who know that they don't know everything and they focus on what they don't know.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
It's not about being cynical. It's about being aware of the limits of knowledge, even your own knowledge.
That's powerful. So back to the black swan. We left off talking about skeptical empiricism.
Yeah, that's like the core of it, right? Like, how do we even begin to think that way?
Right, it feels kind of huge.
Well, Taleb has this idea about silent evidence.
Silent evidence.
We focus on what we see, like the successes, the winners, the survivors,
But we missed
but all the failures.
stuff that didn't happen.
Yeah, it's invisible to us.
Like that cemetery of letters he talks about. All those books ever published, maybe they were brilliant, but we'll never know.
Exactly. Makes you think about all the talent that's just, like, lost.
Right. How different would history look if we could see everything?
He uses this example, Giacomo, the opera singer,
Yeah.
right? Small Italian town, before recordings, feels like a big fish, but his success is limited by, like, how far his voice can travel.
But then technology changes everything.
Suddenly, he's competing with the best singers in the world.
It's like that with everything now. The internet.
It's like what Taleb calls mediocristan versus extremistan.
Okay, break that down for me.
Mediocristan, it's predictable. Things average out. Human height, right. Most people fall within a certain range.
Makes sense.
But extremistan, that's where the outliers rule. Think book sales, wealth distribution.
A few giants.
A few giants. And they skew everything.
So like starting a YouTube channel today.
You're stepping right into extremistan.
A few get millions of views, most get, well,
Crickets.
and all those people who tried and failed.
Silent evidence.
It really makes you question those rags to riches stories.
Right. Was it all hard work and talent? Or was it just,
Right place, right time.
and lucky?
And it's important to remember that when we're judging ourselves, too.
Our own abilities, even historical events.
We're only seeing a tiny part of the story.
The tip of the iceberg.
So how do we use this skeptical empiricism in real life? How do we avoid being fooled by, incomplete information?
Taleb suggests a couple things. First, base rates.
Base rates.
Like the overall odds of something happening, not just the flashy individual cases.
So, someone tells me about a hotshot investor. Don't just get excited about their returns.
Look at how many investors actually beat the market.
Most don't. So maybe it was more luck than skill.
Exactly. It's like hearing about someone getting mugged in Central Park.
Sounds scary.
But millions of people visit Central Park.
Well, we're fine.
Our emotions, they can distort our sense of risk.
So we got to look at the bigger picture.
The statistical reality, not just the anecdotes.
Okay, what else can we do?
Taleb says, instead of getting hung up on probabilities, focus on payoffs.
Payoffs.
Think about the consequences, like the worst case scenario. That's
Yeah.
usually easier to imagine.
So thinking about a career change.
Ask yourself, can I handle the worst that could happen? Don't just focus on the potential upside.
That's smart.
Hmm.
So you're saying certain professions are just riskier by nature?
Taleb talks about scalable professions, where the winners take most of the rewards. Those are inherently less stable.
So maybe that dream of being a novelist or a rock star, not such a good bet in a world full of black swans.
Yeah, those big dreams often come with big risks.
This is heavy stuff. But I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
It's about making smarter choices, navigating uncertainty.
With more awareness.
Yes, more awareness.
Back for more Black Swan.
Yeah.
My brain is doing somersaults after the first two parts.
Taleb really makes you think, huh?
Yeah, for sure. So in this last part, I know we wanted to get into some of those...
A bit more technical stuff.
Yeah, the technical stuff.
But it all ties back to the big picture.
Okay, I'm ready. We've already mentioned the ludic fallacy. What was that again?
The ludic fallacy is when we, mistake games and models, those neat little theoretical worlds, for actual reality. It's like trying to play poker with the rules of chess.
That's a good analogy.
Taleb, he uses the example of casinos.
Oh, right.
Everything seems so controlled there, right? You know the rule.
Probabilities, odds, all that.
But it's funny. Taleb was actually at a casino for a symposium on uncertainty of all things.
No way.
And he found out that the casino's biggest losses often came from stuff their models didn't predict.
Like what?
Like, a disgruntled employee stealing chips, a power outage, a high roller winning way more than expected. The real world throws curveballs that a roulette wheel can't.
So we get this false sense of security from these models.
But they can blind us to the real risks, especially the black swan kind.
The stuff we can't even imagine.
Exactly. And Taleb contrasts this with what he calls a platonic knowledge. Like, think of his character, Fat Tony.
Oh, Fat Tony.
I love him.
The ultimate skeptic.
Yeah. Always looking for the angles.
He relies on intuition, experience, street smarts. Except that some things you just can't predict. So it's not that models are useless.
No, but we can't rely on them completely. We need that real-world wisdom.
Okay, and there was that other thing, the bell curve, right?
Ah, the Gaussian bell curve, that beautiful symmetrical curve we all learned about.
Human height, IQ, stock market returns, it's everywhere.
It's a powerful tool. But Taleb says it doesn't work for everything, especially not in extremistan.
Where those outliers, the black swans, mess everything up.
They completely skew the distribution. It's not about those small, predictable changes.
It's about the potential for those huge events that can change everything.
Right, like using the bell curve to model financial markets.
Oh, yeah, that's dangerous.
Remember long-term capital management, that hedge fund?
The one that went bust.
They were using super sophisticated models, all based on Gaussian assumptions. And then, bam, the market did something their model said was practically impossible.
They lost billions.
A classic example of what happens when we ignore the possibility of the unpredictable.
Okay, so big picture time. After all this, what are we supposed to do? How do we live in a black swan world?
First, accept that black swans exist. They're not going away.
And don't be fooled by simple stories and easy answers. The world is complex.
Cultivate skepticism. about everything, even your own beliefs.
Don't be afraid to say, I don't know.
Exactly. And maybe that will lead to better choices in our careers, our investments, even just how we learn about the world.
So even though these black swans can seem scary, we're not powerless.
We have agency. We can position ourselves to weather the storms and maybe even benefit from them.
That's a good way to put it. Makes me feel a little less doomed.
It's not about predicting the future, it's about understanding how to thrive in a world where we can't.
I think we're starting to get it. Thanks for diving deep into the black swan with us.